Hello,
Good morning.
this is Kirk and Tiffany with Seeking the Glory of God Ministries. We have a devotional for July 26th this morning.
That's right. So, we're talking about what things in the book of Revelation have already happened. So, we're on part 3, and we're going to talk about the trumpets today, trumpets 1 through 6, basically, or Revelation 7, 8, and 9. So, Revelation 7 opens up with the 4 angels holding back the wind until the servants of God receive his seal. But first, let's read Joel 2, verse 1. It says, "Blow the trumpet in Zion, and sound an alarm in my holy mountain. Let all the inhabitants of the land tremble, for the day of the Lord is coming, for it is at hand." That's so amazing. Okay, so obviously this is the revelation of Jesus Christ in the book of Revelation. Eyes should be on Jesus, but these are his judgments that come forth from him. He's the just one. Okay, so Revelation 7 again, it opens with the angels holding back the 4 winds. It then goes into a multitude who have come out of tribulation. And this is a depiction of the Church of Jesus Christ. The number 144,000 is not a literal number of people who are saved or something. That number is divisible by 12 into 12,000, and it's a perfect cube. So 144,000 divisible by 12 into 12,000 is a perfect cube. So they say 12,000 from the tribe of so-and-so, 12,000 from the tribe of so-so, and then there's 12 tribes listed, right? So that equals 144,000. So it is a representation of the Spirit-filled church and those who have endured tribulation, not just as physical martyrs, but those who stand in faith, stand before the throne of the Spirit, and will receive a great reward because they've died to self. So when Jesus said, I think it's in Matthew 28, where he says that he sends you out as his witnesses or whatever, he's actually, the word is actually martyr. He's sending you out as a martyr. And it's not necessarily that everybody's going to die physically for Jesus. But if you died to self, that's what he's talking about. Dying in the physical isn't going to matter. You already died to self. So, okay, so that's what that's a representation of. So this part of the revelation of Jesus Christ has been happening since the Spirit was first poured out. From every generation, there have been those who have come out of tribulation with faith. Jesus is building his church. We are living stones built on the foundation of the apostles and prophets with Jesus Christ as the chief cornerstone. And yet, the building is not completed until the end because we have to wait for all our brothers and sisters, right? So after the vision of the perfect church, John sees the 7th seal be opened, wherein he witnesses the prayers of the saints mixed with the smoke of incense in heaven. Then an angel sounds the first trumpet, which is hail and fire with blood, and a third of vegetation and trees burned up. Trumpets in Scripture are usually a call to battle. They're at least a call to attention, but these trumpets indicate wars. So the first trumpet actually did come when the Visigoths attacked the Roman Empire between 400 and 410 AD. After the death of Emperor Theodosius I, they were these Goths, as they call them for short, were led by Alaric, and they represent the hail from the north. They come from the north. The fire represents their scorched earth policy, which means everywhere they went, they burned everything. There's nothing left. And the blood is representative of the numerous deaths caused by this invasion and sacking of Rome. Okay, so that's the first trumpet that did occur. The second trumpet was a battle in the seas, and it was fulfilled by the great nation, which would be indicative of the mountain. So if you read about the second trumpet, I'm not taking the time to read it all because we'd be here forever, but not forever literally, but we'd be here a long time. So there's a great mountain in the second trumpet. That's the Vandals, and that's a great nation. It was led by Genseric, I think you pronounce his name. He attacked the Mediterranean coastlands as well as the islands from the years 425 to 470 AD. Again, much blood spilled in this war. So that's that trumpet is something to do with the seas, and this was a war of the seas, basically. The third trumpet released a great star called Wormwood. Would you mind turning that off? My phone is ringing. I'm sorry about that. So the third trumpet released a great star called Wormwood, which made the waters bitter. Thanks so much. This great star was Attila the Hun, who was called the Scourge of God. That's actually what they called him. And it's known that Attila fought his major battles on rivers. In fact, he came from the area around a river in Illyricum, which is called Wormwood in Greek. So he would lure the Roman armies into crossing the rivers, and as they crossed, the Huns would attack. And it's estimated that 300,000 men were left dead in the source of the Danube River. And I might be pronouncing these names wrong, I'm sorry. The Danube River, the Rhine, and the Po rivers, which fed into over 40 rivers that covered a third of the Roman Empire. Hence, this trumpet blast has also been fulfilled. So if they're dead, so just to give you an example, he comes from the area of Wormwood, and then he leaves so many dead bodies in the river that it makes the waters bitter or disgusting to drink. Okay? So that trumpet has also been fulfilled. The fourth trumpet depicts a third of the sun, moon, and stars darkened. And we know from Genesis 37 that Joseph dreamed his father and mother and brothers were represented by the sun, moon, and stars. So the sun, moon, and stars are symbolic of those in authority, and they're symbolic of a kingdom. So the fourth trumpet represents the downfall of Roman leadership when Romulus Augustulus, the last Roman emperor of the West, was captured in 476 AD by the Heruli, who were led by Odoacer. So Augustulus was the top leader of 1/3 of the Roman Empire. So when you read these trumpets, it talks about 1/3 of the earth, 1/3 of the earth. The Roman Empire was considered basically the earth. They had so much power. It was like there wasn't something beyond their reach. So that's what that's indicating. So anyway, so this man would be the sun in this case. The lesser leaders, the moon and stars, would have been the lesser Roman leaders in the hierarchy of power, which we won't go into all their names and stuff for the sake of time. But these first four trumpets ended the Roman Empire, leaving behind only the eastern part of the empire, which became known as the Byzantine Empire. So before these trumpets all came, the Roman Empire there was an east and a west, but it was all one empire. Throughout the first four trumpets, the Western Empire is destroyed. It's no more. Okay, so now the fifth trumpet begins the woes. After the West was conquered, Christianity in the Eastern Roman Empire became decidedly institutionalized by the Catholic Church. This was paganism mixed with Christianity, with a man, the Pope, put at the head of the church. Judgment then came to the Eastern Empire through the Muslims. So Emperor Constantine moved the capital of Rome to Constantinople in 313 AD. And then in 330 AD, the Christian religion became the official religion of Rome. And pretty soon, only Catholics were recognized as Christians. If you didn't subscribe to the Catholic Church, to the Pope, you were not considered a Christian. So much persecution of true believers and those of other faiths came via the hands of the Roman Catholic Church. And at the same time, much persecution against anyone calling themselves Christians came at the hands of Muslims, who attacked the Eastern Empire for 150 years after Muhammad died in 632 AD until the Treaty of Constantinople was signed in 782. This fulfills the 5-month prophecy where 1 day equals 1 year. So it says that it says 5 months under this trumpet. And if you consider that 5 months has 30 days in it, roughly, that equals 150 years. So the Muslim religion, we know, is demonic in nature. And the description of the locusts under this trumpet, who literally came out for 5 months between April and September, fits this Muslim imagery. For example, the Muslims rode horses very well. They wore turbans that looked like crowns. They had long hair like women, but faces covered in beards like men. They wore breastplates of armor. They also shot arrows behind or before them as they rode, hence the stinging of the tails of the scorpions. They were very agile in the seat of the horse. So during the fifth trumpet, the Muslims attacked Constantinople, but they failed to take it, only tormenting the people instead of killing them. So that's also a fulfillment. However, not that they didn't kill some people, but they couldn't overtake the city and slaughter them. So, however, the sixth trumpet did lead to the downfall of the rest of what was left of the Roman Empire, including Constantinople. So the sixth trumpet is describing the Turkish Empire defeating the rest of the Roman Empire. Revelation 9:16 reads, "Now the number of the army of the horsemen was 200 million. I heard the number of them." That's what John wrote. This is actually a really poor translation. What is translated 100 million actually means 10,000, or it could mean innumerable multitude. So 200 million is actually not the number John heard. The Turks organized their armies into units of 10,000. So when we say the number of the army of the horsemen, if you don't put the 200 million, you say 2 10,000s, that would make sense. That's how they organized their armies. The Turks also wore uniforms of red, blue, and yellow. And the leader who led them across the Euphrates River was known as the Valiant Lion. His given name was Alp-Arslan. And that's all a fulfillment. John saw those colors, all of it. Additionally, the Turks wore horsetails on their hats, used gunpowder and cannons in battle, having to light the tail of the cannon with the explosion coming out of its mouth. This is all a fulfillment if you read about the sixth trumpet. So I encourage you as we go through these devotionals to actually read the scriptures for yourselves. You'll see what I'm talking about. Also, Constantinople was built on 7 hills. It was renamed Istanbul by the Muslims, and it fell because of this great artillery that the Muslims had. So the newly established Istanbul ended the 6th plague in 1543. And so that's where we'll end our devotional today. Yeah.
Not much commentary. I mean,
it's basically historical.
Right. It's history. So, But it's really interesting. I really can see the imagery in the writing of Revelation, much more than I ever have, I think, because of your, you're bringing it out, like talking about the sun, moon, and stars, and in a dream. Well, now we can see why they might call, in this vision that John had of Revelation, they might call it the same thing.
Right.
And there's just a number of of things like the cannons or
right.
and the locusts and all that stuff is just
Right. So he says, "Thus I saw the horses in a vision. Those who sat on them had breastplates of fiery red, hyacinth blue, and sulfur yellow." That's what the Turks wore, red, blue, and yellow. The heads of the horses were like the heads of lions. This guy was actually called the Valiant Lion. That's who led them across. Out of their mouths came fire, smoke, and brimstone. They'd never seen the artillery that the Muslims had, where you light the tail. And I mean, it just goes on. There's a whole bunch of stuff in there. But two, that's how the Lord talks. He talks in imagery. When you have if he just wanted to speak to you, he would just speak to you. But when he gives you a vision like this,
right.
he's not. It's not showing you literally most of the time. It's giving you a symbol. And remember, in the beginning of Revelation, when we started this study, John said that he signified it to him. This was all symbolism. This wasn't like I'm telling you straight up. So, like you've seen. I remember when the Lord showed you visions of throwing the rock into the middle of the U.S.
Sure.
And then it went out like ripples. And then pretty soon it went into other nations.
Yeah.
And the Lord said, this is basically how it's going to go. The justice of the Lord. The United States will lead the way in this. It will go out like ripples. Other nations erupt in praise that, it goes out and ripples into those nations.
Yeah.
It's imagery. It's not, if he just wanted to say it, he'd just say it. But he wants to give you imagery of stuff. So.
Especially, I don't know, I've had a few visions. So I understand, like, there's things that John had never seen before.
Yes.
And he's trying to describe these things that he's never seen before. Well, there's been a number of visions that I've had where, one of them was like I saw like outdoor movie screens or whatever, but they weren't. That's what they looked like, but their actual function was a world of difference from that. But it was very difficult to describe something that nobody's really ever seen before.
Right.
So you're using things that you are familiar with to make these descriptions of what you're seeing.
Right.
So,
and I remember too, the vision of the Trump train. There's a Trump train with all the prisoners in it behind bars, and people are running behind the train cheering, and the people in the train are, the prisoners of the from the deep state or whatever. And it's probably not a literal train, but it's imagery, and it shows you what the plan of the Lord is. So that's what you have to remember.
Right.
You're not actually looking for locusts with beards and breastplates on. It's imagery. And so that was the Turkish
Empire. But before, that's what I imagined when I read it. And so it's like, that's a tough one there.
Yeah.
It's like when
That's
I see
gonna be weird.
when I see this, I'll know it.
Yeah.
But
right.
But yeah, that's really good. Thank you for.
And so you might need to read this and then re-listen to it. And obviously, again, this is just like an overview summary. The Lord doesn't want us to, take the time to really go into depth. This would take a really long time, but you could look it up yourself. I mean, it's historical. Sure. These trumpets have happened. 1 through 6 have happened. Sure. So you can look up these things and find out, and you'll probably see a lot more than I put in there. So,
amen. Yeah. So, well, Jesus loves you so much, and he wants you to know things and the deep things of God. And these are some of the things, this imagery that Tiffany is describing here. He didn't say all these things to keep it a secret, but you have to search it out. So that's just how it works. So it's somehow that brings him pleasure.
That's right.
So. Did you know that there are over 40 million people in slavery against their will today, and that over 99% of these people are female, women, and girls?
Most of these women and girls have no life or job skills, and they desperately need assistance. Destiny Road partners with organizations in the U.S. and in other nations that assist these trafficked victims in prevention programs, outreach, safe houses, counseling and health, encountering the love of Jesus Christ, vocational training, and economic empowerment. Just one of our partners has rescued over 500 women in the Asia-Pacific area, which is home to over 70% of trafficked victims. Many of these women and children become born again when they experience the love of Jesus Christ through their rescuers, and their lives are never the same. Your purchase from Destiny Road helps these rescued and at-risk individuals continue to make an honorable living. Please visit www.destinyroadstore.com for more information. Thank you and God bless.